Hello, I'm Bryan Hutcheson, Sheriff of Rockingham County in the city of Harrisonburg, and thank you for joining me for this week's segment of the Rocktown Crime Report on rocktownnow.com. Today is Friday, January the 10th, our first segment of 2025, and so what we're going to start off this year with is looking at some kind of year in review. We're going to look at some numbers, maybe actually for the next couple segments we'll do it in different areas, but we'll start off by looking at kind of some of the year end or the totals from 2024 and see what that looked like. And if you've been watching some of the segments in the past, we started it last year on rocktownnow.com, you'll know that we kind of been tracking the inmate numbers really as a crime report. There's certainly an indirect, if not a direct correlation between the number of inmates that are being brought in, or i.e. the people that are being arrested and taken to jail, and what the overall rate of crime in our community is. So it's not, again, maybe it's not direct, but certainly there's a strong correlation, the number of arrests that are brought in here versus, what is going on actually overall in our community. We've been looking at that, and so we wanted to start off this first segment of 2025 with kind of a year in review. So you can see here on this chart we have on the screen, this is kind of the review for last year. If you see that this is local inmate numbers, i.e. folks that get arrested are responsible here in Rocktown, Harrisonburg, Rockingham. The inmates brought in there in last January a year ago. We had 319 inmates being held here. We had 213 inmates of ours that were being held at Middle River for a total of 532. And then you can kind of track this throughout the year. A little bit of a decrease there in the April. The key point, and certainly if we're talking in terms of year in review, if you recall, the big part or the major challenge we faced in 2024 was there in May. So between the April date you see and the July date you see, our jail, we had to entirely close. So those numbers went to zero here while we fixed some major plumbing issues we had. So in between that April date and then the July 22nd date, you see, it was actually went down to zero and then back up. So July we were back up to 301 here from zero, 215 at Middle River for 516. A little bit of a decrease there. And then we continue to see that if you look at November, and then also here in this year, just this past Monday, we had, or Tuesday, we had 294 here, 148 there for a total of 442. So year in review, total inmate numbers, again, kind of how many people are being arrested for crimes in our community. Really, we're 90 down from where we were this time a year ago. So that's a great trend we like to see. Does it tell you everything? No, but it's a good thumbnail of what's going on in our community, and we like to see that on a decline. Hopefully we can keep that in place as we go throughout 2025, but kind of as our first point of looking back to 2024, we wanted to start with that. And in looking at it, it's a pretty good thing to see, a nice trend that we hope we can continue with. So wanted to open with that. We'll get on some other things in some future segments looking back at 2024, but we wanted to start with that first and foremost. So next thing we're going to go to is our question of the day. We had a great one come in there at the end of the year last year, which is, what is the difference between a police department and a sheriff's office? And that's a great question from a valued listener that came in again last month. And so really, I think that's going to be a multi-part question. There's a couple different levels to that. So we want to start off, we'll start with the first part of answering that is kind of answering it from the operational sense. So you can look here on this graphic that we're going to put on the screen for you. The really 5 components there you see separated. But if you look at patrol and investigations, those 2 functions, pretty much all police departments, big or small or anywhere in between, have those 2 key functions. Administration aside, we'll talk about that maybe in another segment. Today we're just talking about operations. All police departments have, it's safe to say, components of patrol operations, investigations that they function on. And then if you look in the next box down, civil process, court security, and transportation, all sheriff's offices across the state have those 2 components. Every city and every county has a sheriff. Ours is combined here, which again, we'll talk more about that another day. But from an operational standpoint, every city, every county has a sheriff, and they have those 2 responsibilities. There at the bottom in the last box down, you can see some sheriff's office have jails, and some jails are kind of regional jails, kind of by a regional jail authority is how those are run. So when you talk about The difference for a sheriff's office, well, that's pretty much it. For our sheriff's office, we perform all five. We have the jail, we do the civil process as well as court security and transportation, and we have patrol division and investigations division. Usually, you have some counties that have a police department. Rockingham does not, but there are many counties throughout the state of Virginia that do, and so that's really the difference. The police departments, if the county has one, will assume those functions of patrol and investigations. And then, like here, where there's not, well, we assume those duties as well as the two main that all sheriff's offices do, civil process and courts. And then again, as it turns out, we have the jail. So when you say we're fully accredited, we're accredited by DCJS, and we're a full service. We perform all of the really main services, everyone on the table here at Rockingham County Sheriff's Office, which also serves the city of Harrisonburg. So to answer the operational side of it, that's pretty much it. The police departments have those two main duties, patrol and investigations, and then all sheriff's office have the civil and courts. And then again, depending on the locality, for us, we're full service, fully accredited, do them all. So that's a good question. We're going to touch on the admin side of that. That's a whole nother discussion, as well as the combined effect, I call it. So we're going to make this a multi-tiered, because it's a good question with a couple different components to it. So the operational component, hopefully that made sense today. We'll revisit it next week, kind of continue that question on and talk about, again, admin or maybe even the political side of it, as well as with the combined effect with Harrisonburg, Rockingham, and what that means. So a great question. We're going to get back to that and touch on it, just like we're going to get back and kind of do the year in review. But again, we wanted to start out crime report. Overall, it's good to see the number of local inmates down almost by 100. What a great way to start off 2025. We hope that can continue. We like to see it, and certainly we're going to try for that. One other thing I wanted to point out is, if you don't already have the Rocktown Now app, we're going to put on the screen for you here. It's a free app. You can get it at the App Store. Simple. It's at your fingertips. Rocktown Now, they keep local news current. You can look it up on the website, of course, but that app, check that app out too. A lot of good local content. For instance, the Rocktown Crime Report, available on that app. So if you don't have it, check that out. And we certainly appreciate you sticking with us and checking out the Rocktown Crime Report as we move into 2025. Hope for a great year. We're off to a great start. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.